Thanks everyone for tuning in. This is our final installment of our Back to Business School webinar series. I'm honored to be the caboose in bringing you part three marketing events today. So let's talk about what I've got in store for you. First, we'll reintroduce the Poetica team so you know a little bit more about us and what we do. And then we'll dive into the world of events and how they bring us back to reality in an ever-changing world of AI. Events are more than just a party. I say that all the time. So we'll look at a handful of ways events can help your business. And we'll discuss not only how to make your event happen, but also how to make it count. I know the biggest questions are always like, how will I pay for this? And who's going to run it? And is it even going to be worth it? Like, why even jump in? So we'll talk about all of those answers very soon. And then, of course, if anyone has any questions for us, for me, for Pat or Nicole, just let us know. And if you want to float an idea out there to see how it could work for your next marketing event, we can also brainstorm a little bit if we have the time. So let us re-meet the team. Um, Again, hopefully you were able to attend our two previous webinars in the last 2 weeks. We had one in branding and marketing. If you weren't able to, the recordings are available on our YouTube channel, as this one will be, and you'll have the chance to get to know the Poetica team a little bit better if you give them a listen. So Nicole is our lead designer and an amazing addition to our team. Her expertise and her eye for design and branding literally blows my mind every day. We have so much fun talking with her and working on projects together. And of course, right there in the middle, that's me. Obviously, you'll get to know me and what I do over the next hour or so. And Pat is our fearless leader, our founder and creative director. He's also my husband. He started Poetica Marketing in 2018. And back then, he focused mainly on content marketing, hence the name Poetica, which means the art of language. So over time, we've grown to offer a more rounded marketing experience to tell a brand's story online and in person. So that is Poetica. But what did I just say? Tell your brand's story online and in person. Um, Obviously, the online portion is the digital marketing, that branding, everything that you put on your website to make your brand more well known online. But I am here to talk to you more about this, the in-person part. Um, so there's no doubt that in order to grow with the times and stay relevant and really improve any aspect of your business, that you have to utilize some technology. I get that. You have to embrace some sort of AI and incorporate virtual tools into your marketing strategy. But last week, we spoke extensively about how AI is really making authentic personal interactions on the internet harder to come by and even harder to trust. So, virtual assistants, chatbots, AI blogs, AI ads, that robotic voice you hear when you call your doctor, and all of this like artificial interaction just makes people crave more personal, real relationships. And I'm not just saying this because I plan and coordinate events for a living, although I do believe it wholeheartedly. I'm saying this because it's true. So we're gonna show you some other people who kind of take my side on this like in-person event theory. So in this BizBash article from this past January, Dwayne Barnett of 1540 Productions, which is just an events company, said, while 2024 felt like the year AI took over in some ways, it's important to remember that the heart of any memorable experience will always be the connection between people. As we learn how to use these new tools and approaches, we can't lose sight of that. And I love that, and I can't agree more. I'll tell you, and feel free to tell your stories in the chat as well. But I can't tell you how many times I've bounced from bot to bot or email to email, just trying to get a question answered about like my insurance, a light bill, what have you. And when I finally get to talk to someone on the phone, a real human person, I finally feel heard. I finally feel understood. And I feel like I'm going to get the correct answer to my personal question and not just like a one size fits all answer from some bot. Um, so through your marketing and the types of content and events that you present to your audience, you can also create that same feeling of safety and authenticity through your branding and your online presence. So this article from Intensify speaks to a little bit more of what we do here at Poetica. In a B2B environment where deals often depend on trust, rapport, and good chemistry, that face-to-face element is huge. And that's why B2B event marketing, crafting unforgettable and in-person moments that connect businesses is back on everyone's radar. Thank goodness, right? People who want to see, or people want to see who they might partner with. They want heartfelt stories, hand-on demos, and real-time discussions that you just can't replicate online. So it goes without saying that having a conversation with a bot is not the same as talking to a real person. But we can take that one step further and realize that interacting through a screen isn't as effective as interacting in person, which I know is ironic because I'm literally giving this presentation via webinar. But we at Poetica, we do a lot of in-person networking and speaking engagements as well. So you can't, all things with balance. You shouldn't do all of one or all of the other. I believe that there's a nice balance between your online presence and what's in person as well. Um, so what this article is saying is that we do need real life person-to-person interaction in our marketing. And like I said, we can't just rely on that online presence all the time. I have one more for you. In this article from Coherent Marketing Insights in June, I learned that the US live events market is growing fairly quickly, which is a great thing. Consumers, especially Gen Z and millennials, increasingly prioritize experience over material possessions, leading to high demand for live concerts, sports, festivals, and immersive events. This is expected to boost growth of the US live events market during the forecast period, which, as it says in the title, is 2025 through 2032. And you can see down there too, it says it will grow from 466.13 billion, where we are today, up to that 651.53 billion in 2032, which is, I think, a crazy amount in just a short amount of time. So all of this is to say that the future is live. In-person events aren't going anywhere, and they are so super important for making your brand seen, heard, and known. During an event, you're offering yourself the opportunity to build authentic relationships with your audience and the people that support you. And they've come out of the woodwork and out from behind their desk to see you and your business. So bolstering those relationships really encourages and nurtures lifelong brand loyalty. And I'd love for you all to hopefully rewire the way you think about events after our talk today, because hosting a marketing event is more than just throwing a party. And it's more than dumping money into a fancy dinner. It's not just an excuse to, eat and drink and be merry on the company card. Marketing events, when well planned and well executed, have purpose and bring real value to your business. And I will talk to you about how to make sure your event provides that value up next. So there is true potential in hosting an event, no matter what it is. It could be a simple happy hour or a more complex conference or community event, or even like a milestone celebration, like a business anniversary. That may be considered more of just a party, but whatever the event happens to be, there's an opportunity there to elevate your brand and marketing. And here's the unspoken elephant in the room, because maybe it's obvious, maybe it's not. Any event, however you dress it up or label it, is meant to perhaps secretly tie back into your sales process, even the parties. So, what gives events so much potential? Let's talk about it. Events can be used to heighten awareness, create hype, deepen connections that you've already made, make new connections, and obviously generate leads and provide insight. So, we're going to dive into each one of these. And again, if you, her speaker notes version of the slides. Okay, so sorry. So, let's talk about heightening awareness of your brand. Posting about the event on social media in the weeks and months before can increase awareness online. You can continue to post about the event after it's over to say what we did and how wonderful it was. And the day of the event, passersby can see tents, balloons, a crowd of people, so forth. So just by holding an event, you're turning heads. And a side note, real quick, it's really important to provide signage and branding that easily tells like those passersby what is going on and why this event is happening. I love a good sign. If there's an event happening down the street from where I'm window shopping, I want to know what it is, what's going on. Can I join? Is there food? But I need to know if it's a private party by looking on from a distance. I know Pat and I have been in this situation multiple times where we just are having a nice Saturday, walking around. We come across an event that's just a total mystery. Who's hosting? What is this for? There are tents. Should I go over? Am I welcome? So if it's a public event you're after, making it super clear that it is open to the public is super important. I mentioned earlier that in order to create an event that provides value for your business, you do have to plan for things like that and be very intentional. And that's a great example. But we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. So our second is how an event can create hype. This definitely goes hand in hand with what we just talked about. If your audience is super excited about your event coming up, they're going to talk about it. They're going to share it on social media. They'll invite friends, family, colleagues. And I know I'm referencing public events and community events heavily when I'm talking about bringing, like passersby in, but this goes for conferences, networking events, and like more tailored private events as well. Because maybe as a host, you're not interested in bringing just like the public in off the street the day of the event, but leading up to the event, people will be more aware of a company or a nonprofit because they've seen the hype. They've seen posters, maybe an email, social media posts about an upcoming event. And it's like a form of advertising that kills two birds with one stone. You're bringing attention to the event, but in doing so, you're also highlighting your brand as well. So, deepening connections. Chances are, if and when you host an event, you're going to get your current clientele involved. They'll be interested in participating and being part of the hype. They'll be excited to see what's in it for them, which again, we'll dive into a little bit later. And all of this is great because, again, seeing people in person strengthens relationships and nurtures brand loyalty. Whatever the event, it should be worth it for the people to attend. And you, as the host, have to take advantage of that FaceTime with your audience. So when your current clientele do become involved, it's not a bad thing. That's a great thing to continue that relationship. But of course, we always want to make new connections and grow. So one thing I tell my clients all the time is that this is their event. They need to be out there making connections, shake hands, tell stories, get out there and meet some new faces, and put faces to names as well. The names that you've seen online a million times, now you can meet them in person. The last thing we want is for the host to be so caught up in the logistics of the event that they're not enjoying it and making new connections, right? It's crucial to plan ahead. There should be a way for the host to host and for staff or an assistant, a third party, or a coordinator to worry about all the details so that, again, the host can be out in among the people. And of course, an event can help generate leads. Again, it's the elephant in the room. We want an event to lead people down the sales funnel. We want to meet new people and deepen relationships. And we also want to grab new names to add to the funnel. And I want to say that it is completely okay to gather information from your attendees before, during, and even after your event. If there are ticket sales, you can ask for emails and addresses, ask for permission to add them to a mailing list. You can dig a little deeper and see why they're interested in joining the event and how they found out about it. At the event itself, it is okay to provide a survey to ask about their experience at the event, or even their experience as a current customer if they already are. Again, the event is part of the sales cycle, so if you can leverage it to continue contact in the future, whether it be via email or socials, you absolutely should. You don't have to feel guilty about doing that. You can follow up with a thank you note, reach out personally, or connect after the event and keep that communication going. So, as I said, events are an opportunity to connect directly with your target audience. So don't feel like you can't reach out to people later just because they were a guest at the event. You can and should genuinely want to connect with these people, and naturally, that can lead down the sales road when the time is right. And another way events can grow your business is to provide insight. And this is sort of maybe a little more abstract or something that maybe you won't think of as you plan an event. But, contact information is important to collect. There are other things to sort of like take note on as well. For instance, maybe the event opens to your eyes to a new demographic that you didn't realize was interested in your product or service, but a bunch of people showed up at this event and they're really excited about it. Or maybe you get feedback from attendees that was super helpful to something that has nothing to do with the event, like customer service. Like, oh, I tried to call you 3 times last week and no one answered. Okay, thank you for telling us. Really glad that you're here giving me that feedback. Um, Maybe people at the event showed you that they want and need more opportunities like this one to connect with their peers and community. It's always important to reflect on the event after it's over and think about everything you learned from a sales perspective, yes, but also in a larger way, like how can we continue to connect with the community at large, or maybe even just like the community within your industry. So you can learn so much from your target audience by being literally in among them and with them at this event. So, how to make it count and how to make it happen. I'm not going to lie to you. Hosting an event takes time and money and thorough planning, right? But the payoff is worth it, especially if you play your cards right. So let's let's dive into how it can get a little bit tricky, but how it can really be worth it in the end. Getting started on planning an event can feel a little bit like this. You've got your ideas, your ideal venue, maybe a list of people you want to invite. Maybe you have all the information you've learned from this webinar or your own research or like a chat GPT. It's a lot to sort through. And it could feel a little bit like this, like it's just towering over you and there's way too much all at once. Or maybe it even feels a little bit like this, where you have a great idea and that's about it. You have one little box in your room. But it is easier to get from the jumble of ideas to a successful event, something orderly and functional than you may think. So, and obviously, especially if you have some help, whether it's from, again, a third party or if you have an event committee on your team. So let's start at the beginning. The first step to an event planning is to identify what you want your event to be, what you want to accomplish. Simple enough, right? For this portion, we're going to talk about a hypothetical happy hour. I'll just reference that once in a while to kind of give an example. So you'd like to host a happy hour in partnership with a local brewery. It'll boost their visibility and also allow you to reach more people in your target audience. That sounds perfect, right? So oftentimes the venue, date, and time are the first things you want to check off your list. And those are usually decided while you're ironing out those goals of the event. and what you'll need to provide for your guests. So again, this happy hour, we're partnering with a local brewery. The idea is to get them visibility and more people in their door, but also to show off your product or service as well. Everyone wins. And it's important to remember, those goals have to align with whatever venue you choose. If you want to reach more people and your target audience is in downtown Pittsburgh, maybe you shouldn't try to find a venue that's up in Cranberry or, Beaver, even if it's a Friends or a cheapest option. Like you have to align all of these details with your goals. That being said, it's really important to align every detail of your event back with your branding as well. So you got to keep in mind that your venue, your vibe, the accommodations, even the date, location, etc., they should all align with your brand and support your overall goals of the event. And then, of course, the question is, dun dun dun, how are we going to pay for this? And that is where budget comes in. The budget is always, I think, the biggest question on everyone's mind. It's the first question people ask me. Um, if it's your first event, you may not have an idea, in your head at all about like what it's going to cost. The the easiest thing I can say about that is that you should have some number in mind as far as how much you personally want to put into the event. I know that it's not easy to know what it'll cost at the beginning, but if you have a number in your head, like I do not want to spend more than $2,000 or I do not want to spend more than $5,000. Now that informs the scope of the event. It informs like, okay, it needs to be a little smaller. It needs to be a little more intimate. We're not going to have an open bar. Maybe we'll have a cash bar. People can come and enjoy refreshments, but it's not going to be completely paid for by me. They can pay for a couple of things themselves and still benefit from being there. And if you do want to go bigger and you don't have a huge budget, there are ways that you can increase your budget, of course, by partnerships and sponsorships. And we're going to sidebar for just a minute here because lucky for us, live marketing spend, aka sponsorship money, is on the rise, generally speaking. So let's go back to this stat. As I mentioned earlier, the live event industry is on the rise, and it's supposed to reach, as I said, $651.53 billion by 2032. And in a similar way as the event industry is growing, live marketing spend is also soaring and will most likely continue to grow. So here is a quote from a Wall Street Journal article dropped earlier this year. Katie Deaton says basically that brands have turned to real life events in over digital ads in recent years, and the trend is expected to continue. So she says, established brands that have watched their digital advertising costs surge in recent years are thirsty to connect with a younger crowd of consumers who they have found will help happily post about their brands on social media if they are given free products and a fun photo wall, which is kind of hilarious. It's a little bit tongue in cheek, like, oh, silly kids posting social media if you have, if you give them shiny things, but also that's what's happening. So my advice is to take advantage of that. Wherever you can partner, trade, offer exposure, and create a platform for other businesses to buy into, do it. Why spend your own money when you can spend sponsorship money or partner with someone and make it easier on you? And of course, there's the added bonus that the audience from those partners and sponsors will be exposed to your brand. And obviously, you will be exposed to theirs. So this goes all the way back to the beginning of this webinar when we talked about the value that events can bring to a business through awareness, hype, connections, lead gen, etc. And that brings us back to our final piece of the web, marketing to partners. sponsors and vendors is a big part of this process. Obviously, you need to market the event to the right audience to make sure your target market is aware of the event and they plan to attend. But marketing to those, people who will help put the event on and take some of that financial burden off of you is also really important. So oftentimes we have sort of two different marketing strategies happening at the same time as all of this event planning in itself. So let's take a deep breath together. Are you still with me? Uh, the point of this is not to confuse you or overwhelm you with this big web and all these arrows, but I'm demonstrating that in order for a marketing event to have a chance at success, everything connects. Everything comes back to your brand, your goals, your effort to make it all work together. And so it's not, again, it's not just trying to offer as many fun, fancy things as you can. Every piece has to fit into the puzzle in some way. And really, this is the hard part. This is the beginning. It's the scary part of planning that, if you're depending on sponsorships to come in, maybe it can be scary to think like, oh, I don't know if we're going to get enough money to come in. Sometimes it feels impossible to find the right venue or get everything to align properly. But once you've got all the technicalities nailed down, then it's time to really start digging into what the event is going to offer your attendees and why they should be there. And that is where the fun stuff comes in. And I think Erica mentioned a little bit of this last week, not to single Erica out or call her out, but the roar factor. So, roar factor stands for return on attendee relevance. I did not make that up. I came across it in a book once and it's stuck with me ever since. It's just another way to think about ROE, which is return on engagement. And it's all the reasons people should look forward to your event and feel like they've spent their time and money wisely by um, buying a ticket or being at the event. And, hopefully because they've had such a nice time or they've really had this great experience, they will brag about the event to their friends and family and colleagues. And in doing so, again, talk about your business. So some interactivity and engagement trends that sort of feed into this like roar factor, this excitement about being part of the event, um, is personalization. That's a big one right now. Uh, at least a name tag is very helpful, but there are so many different ways to kind of include personalized like tidbits in your event. So like a personalized welcome bag or thank you gift. Anytime an attendee can choose what they want from a list, whether it's from a menu of food or a list of sessions, they can choose which path they're going to take. Anytime, like I said, anytime they can feel like they're a part of the event, that's really important. And to go with that, the VIP experience is super huge right now, and it has been for a while. People love to feel important and pampered and spoiled a little bit. And really, if they have an excuse to say, like, I'm a VIP and they feel a little bit better than other people, they're going to buy into it. It's a great opportunity for sponsorships as well. So if you have a VIP lounge, you can say that like this VIP lounge brought to you by XYZ. And it just means that, that sponsorship has helped you pay for this event. And they don't need to know the nitty-gritty details. If the sponsor gets a big banner and that's usually enough. Um, Networking opportunities are also super important at these events. Attendees, as I said before, they've come out of the woodwork, out from behind their desk, out from their houses to come and be here and spend time with you. And that's a big deal. They want it to be worth their time. So some sort of educational element or some way to connect with people can be a really great way to offer them like referral partners, leads, and they really feel like, okay, I came and I made connections for myself, and it was really worth my time as well. The next two top venues and hotels and destination events. These are really popular right now. We actually have a client who's doing sort of a destination event, and they it's again all about kind of sharing your experience on social media and what makes people feel important and pampered and you know everything in the news right now. There's so much that is heavy, I think, on our hearts. And it's really exciting when you go to an event and it's beautiful, or you go to a hotel and it's, so much fun. And you can really like take pictures and post about it and say, I had a great time. Um, it says we're seeing many of their peers organizing similar travel retreats as well. Yeah, it's huge right now. People are super into travel retreats and really just offering almost like the best of the best in events. Again, this can be tricky when budget kind of holds you back a little bit from that, but there are ways to increase the budget through sponsorships and partnerships. So, immersive displays and brand activation. This is what Erica was asking me about a little bit last week. I so brand activation in itself, these are the really fun things. I actually really love stuff like this, where you go to an event and you get to um, again be part of it. It's very personal and it's very immersive. You get to add something to a wall of art, or you get to vote, or you get to build something, like anything that it's a little bit of guerrilla marketing sometimes. Sometimes you'll see sort of this like pop up, um, out on the street, and you think like, oh, like what is that? And so like the activation or the display itself maybe isn't the event, but the act of like offering that and saying like it's part of a bigger plan, or it's part of this like day long, like everybody, come out for this like open house and be part of this activity that can really help bolster, people again feeling that they're part of something bigger and something fun. And all of those like really kind of like eye-catching fun things are again great to post on your social media and say like, hey, don't miss out, like come and be a part of this and contribute to it as well. Hybrid events and yes, AI and AR are also super, important and really big parts of events these days. Again, the internet, technology, AI, it's not going away, so we have to embrace it. Any chance you can offer your attendees a way to sort of make their lives easier. So, like maybe they don't want to look for a map or hold a map all day. Now you have apps that connect your attendees, with the schedule, the map, even some networking things. Like you can have all of that in your pocket on your phone, and still be in person at the event. The hybrid event is also really great for reaching a larger number of people. So we have a client that every year they have like a hybrid conference where in person there are people going to sessions and interacting, but then online we have people tuning in for some live streamed panels and that kind of thing. And so yeah, I mean, I'm not totally against online events, but being able to have that balance of both is really important. So, um, overall, we went over a ton of information today, and really, we only scratched the surface. But I want you to take away a couple things from today: that consumers crave experience over possession as of 2025, as of stores and shows and concerts and life opening back up post-pandemic, right? Colleagues want to get out from behind the computer screens and get back into, uh, face-to-face interactions with people. And I've said, although artificial intelligence and augmented reality are great and important tools to help your businesses grow, authentic intelligence and actual reality aren't going away. And honestly, they'll hopefully we'll see events continue to grow in the years to come as the numbers suggest. time will tell. There's a lot to go into planning and coordinating an event so that it pays off, but in the end, the results, both in the short term and the long run, are super worth it. And I hope that you can agree with me after joining me today in this webinar. Um, and of course, the final like added bonus is that you get to be proud of the experience that you've offered to your guests. So with that, oops, here's my final thoughts. We at Poetica are here to help kind of weed through that web of, what kind of marketing do I need? What kind of branding should I improve before I dive into marketing and events? And then, of course, if you need help with an event that you have an idea for or anything like that, I'm always here to help with that side of it. So, does anyone have any kind of questions, thoughts, comments? I don't know if you want me to like show you that planning web again. I know it can get a little bit overwhelming.
Regina, can you talk a little bit more about, I know you talked about sponsorships as a way of helping to pay, but I think that this is a very common missed opportunity for
Mm,
people who are coordinating events. Can you talk a little bit more about logistically how that works, how you kind of set that up, how you market the sponsorship opportunities, and how those can actually benefit companies in the
yes.
real world?
Yeah, 100%. So sponsorships. And this is something that I think people don't know enough about, and they don't realize that it's something that we can help with. So I'm glad that you've brought this up. But the first step is to think about first off, what you need to have covered. So if you want to expand your budget by, a couple hundred, great. If it's a couple thousand, okay, we have to start thinking about how large the sponsorship packages should be and what they offer. So if it's as simple as, so we'll kind of start at the bottom. You can offer tables at your event, vendor tables, or maybe if somebody sponsors a table, they get their logo and, maybe business cards or flyers or something like, um, at a table where like people will be sitting and they get to see that sponsor throughout the evening. So that can be sort of an easy buy-in, maybe $50, $100, something like that. And as we kind of increase that sponsorship package, like that dollar amount, we also have to increase the value for the sponsor, right? So if you want a $5,000 sponsor, or even much more than that, you have to start thinking about, what are they getting in return? So obviously, visibility during the event is huge. Some sort of banner, maybe there's multiple banners or signage. Like I said earlier, they can sponsor a specific thing. So it can be like coffee bar brought to you by, I don't know, I'm trying to think like PNC Park or I don't know. So it can be like one specific thing, the VIP lounge or coffee bar, the stage. Those are all really big like ticket items, and like everyone is going to see that sponsor when they go and interact with that thing at the event. But then on the other side, offering them posts on social media and shout outs and maybe even some mic time during the actual event. Somebody from their organization comes up and speaks for, 3 minutes, 5 minutes even. All of that kind of makes it a little more juicy for the sponsor to think like, oh, okay, I'm going to invest this much money into this, and I'm also going to get back. I'm going to, potentially have this exposure as well. And so all of that being said, once you kind of have the idea of, okay, here's our different levels, side note that it's like out of style to call them bronze, gold, platinum. I don't make the rules. So really offering packages to cover like specific things, like I just said, like the stage, the VIP lounge, or calling it like something more on brand for your business is also really important too. So anyway, once you have those packages, going to your marketing team and saying, okay, we have to find sponsors. Like they're not going to come to you and say like, hey, can I give you money? You have to be able to find the right sponsors and offer them these different packages, and really dive into, exploring how you can reach out to them, and get their support. Does that cover everything? So
Yeah, I'd say so.
working to make juicy packages, deciding how much you need and how many sponsorships you want to pursue, and then figuring out the strategy to actually gain those sponsorships is all part of the process. So Erica says, can you think of a recent brand event that was a failure or damaged the brand's reputation? Could you point out the specific mistake that they made and how they could have fixed it? Example, Snapple flooding downtown Manhattan with their 25-foot popsicle. Pat says, "Ooh, the Cleveland balloon incident. That's more of a classic legendary example instead of something more recent." Um, I know that, and I don't know the name, but there was a company who offered like a Bridgerton themed event, and people came from all over. They were dressed up like the characters and like that time. And once they got to the event, there was nothing to do. There were videos of people just sitting on the floor and like on their phones, and everyone's really cranky and upset. And like, honestly, that goes back to the roar factor, right? Like you can't just expect people to show up and pay for an event and then they don't get something out of it and they don't feel like they've had a good time. Oh yeah, there was a Willy Wonka thing. Yeah, that was a weird one. Yeah, yeah. So these events that people go to and they're hyped and they're dressed up and they're excited and they get there and there's just like nothing to do. I think at that Bridgerton one, there may have been a photo op and I don't even know if there was food. Like there were just like a couple very small offerings and it was a disaster. People weren't excited to be there and like I said, I don't even know who hosted that, and maybe I should, but did not go the way I think that they planned it. The Fire Festival is another great example. Sorry, I'm just popping up. No, that's great. I can't. Um, so
Do-
what was the concert Live Nation got people? Okay, so there was a concert, festival. There were like 8 deaths. Like people were like suffocated, and this is horrible. This is like a really bad example, but they did not plan for the number of attendees at this concert, and
Are
it
you thinking of
was
Woodstock
a
98?
disaster. No, it was like a big, it's actually a train wreck documentary on Netflix right now, if anybody understands what I'm talking about.
I
I
think
can't.
that is the Woodstock concert.
Oh, there is a Woodstock episode.
Maybe I'm wrong.
But this is shoot, I'll have to find it for you. But um it was like some famous sort of like rap artist, and everybody was upset because he could have stopped the concert. Like people were like yelling from the audience to say like stop the concert, like help these people, and they just kind of kept going. So yeah, not a good look for Live Nation. Basically, they sold thousands of tickets over the capacity of the venue, and it was traumatic and actually terrible. So again, just paying attention to the Travis Scott concert. Thank you, Nicole. Nicole knows. Um, yeah, it was terrible. So really thinking about your venue, thinking about how many people, Astro World, yes, that's it. It was Astro World. I forget what city even it was. Oh my goodness. But um it was such an interesting documentary to watch, like from an events perspective, and think like, how did they let this happen? Like when you're planning an event and you're planning for like the flow of the number of attendees you're going to have, and you don't want it to bottleneck, and you don't want people to get kind of caught in the corner. You definitely don't want people at a concert who, you always have that like pushing and pulling, and you don't want people to get so stuck that, there's no second exit. So yeah, this is talking about like a huge concert and like thousands and thousands of people. But even for the smaller events, I've gone to events before where the coffee is over in that corner and I cannot get to it.
Yeah.
And so just keeping in mind, how many people are going to be present and do you have enough physical space for everyone?
Yeah, do you mind if I jump in, Regina?
Yeah, go for it.
To answer Heather's question, how much event planning should be considering the emergency security needs?
Oh,
That's a good
yeah.
one too. I think if there is going to be an issue, it's either going to be in the marketing phase or it's going to be in the planning phase. So the marketing one's easy. If you flub your marketing, nobody's going to come, and that's just a bummer. And it's also a
Yeah.
bummer for your attendees who do make it when they get there and there's just like a lack of energy. Like that's just going to kill the event. It's also going to leave a bad impression. And I think on the planning side, like a lot of those like classic issues, like, hey, we oversold all of these tickets and like we didn't account for it. Part of like the Woodstock issue was 98. One of the things they talk about is like the um just like the ground, the management of the ground was so poor that there are all these like pictures of like people who are like crawling around in mud and they have mud smeared all over their bodies, but they didn't realize that that was actually like human feces and they like didn't have that part managed. Think about
Oh,
like
no.
the Fire Festival, which was like grossly underfunded and like was supposed to be like super gourmet food and stuff like that. And they just had these like embarrassing like sandwiches and things like that. So, um, to Regina's point about like coffee and stuff, you really have to put yourself in the attendee's shoes and really think about like what is this experience going to be like on the day of? Like how does the venue, how does the layout, how does the ground plan, how does the smell and the sound and the sights impact that overall experience? And also like how can we even just move the crowd? So we talk about like people being trampled, like, and that's a
Mm,
very serious issue, right? And so, like, how do we think about the way people will move through a space? And like, how do we set up different attractions and different booths and things like that to move them through in a way that is safe and enticing and will like naturally move them through? So there are a lot of different considerations that need to be made, but I think that 90% of your problems can be stomped out by really, really thorough planning. We always say that like to our clients is like we're prepping, we're always like, look, we're going to account for everything. Something's going to go wrong. Something's going to happen day of that like nobody could have planned for because
right,
like
right. You can
some
plan everything to a
r-
T, and it's better to over plan and be over
right,
prepared so that when something inevitably pops up, like at one of our events, someone had a seizure. And this was
right.
a year or two ago. You don't know. You don't know who has what kind of, health issues in the audience or at the event, and so just being super prepared for everything is all you can do.
Right.
And then as things come, at least you are prepared, and you can kind of face it with like a level head and not panic. That's what's really important.
All right.
And sorry, so Nicole says how much of event planning should be considered or considering the emergency and security needs, et cetera. And yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. I think most of the planning is, in theory, like, okay, everything should be okay. We're not expecting an emergency. We're not expecting anything to go terribly wrong, but kind of keeping that in the back of your mind, having a rain plan, having
mhm.
some place for people to shelter in place if it's an outdoor event, and having sort of like a backup. date even like, oh, if there's a tornado or something, if your event is in the middle of September, I feel like there's all, or was it September or yeah, August, September are like the hurricane seasons, right? It's just, I feel like it was just rain and rain and rain for a
Hmm.
while there. And then even like back in April, it gets crazy as well. So anyway, just thinking about like, okay, time of year, place, location of the event, what could possibly go wrong, and really keeping that in the back of your mind. And I mean, maybe someone would probably argue with me and say it should be first on the list, right? Um, I think it should definitely have a decent amount of time spent
Hmm.
in becoming prepared for emergency situations.
And that's also a good point or a good opportunity to mention that like if you're hosting an event, you should think about getting event insurance. So you probably
Oh,
should
that's the other
get.
thing I was going to say. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there are many different types of event insurance. There's just like regular event, like blanket, like, hey, if somebody gets injured, we're covered. That's when you consider all of the other costs that go into an event, that is probably going to be one of your more affordable line items. And there's even like riders or add-ons or even just like simple like, hey, we have like rain insurance or we have a heat insurance, like basically weather insurance, where if it gets too cold for an outdoor event or if it gets too hot for an outdoor event, you can have your costs covered by insurance so that you don't suffer a loss. Like if you put $20,000 into an event, that insurance is there so that those $20,000 are covered if it hits 105
Right.
degrees that day and nobody can make it.
Right. So basically they cover yeah, they cover your costs so that it's almost like it didn't happen, which is a total bummer because you've just spent the last year planning for this. Um but the idea is that you don't get hit so hard, that now we're out $20,000 and we didn't have the event, so we didn't make any money and that kind of thing. It's very Alcohol is a huge issue as well. And even if you have a happy hour at a restaurant and they have all their insurance and you've got, your own like liability insurance for your business, whatever, you should um opt to get insurance that covers like having alcohol at your event. I personally don't speak insurance language very well, so I can't tell you exactly what to look for. But if you talk to your insurance agent and say, I'm having this event, there's going to be alcohol, I'm paying for, you know, one drink per person, or maybe there's an open bar or whatever, like especially if you're paying for that alcohol that's being um, um, made available to your attendees, you should be covered in some way to make sure if anybody gets hurt on their way home, even if like they slip and fall, whatever, like you need to be covered for that because unfortunately we live in a society that enjoys suing people.
Well, we just anecdotally, I'll share. We have a partner who used to be a referee for like MMA fights and for jiu-jitsu, and he was reffing a bout or a fight or whatever, and somebody didn't tap, and he spiral fractured his arm, and he didn't have health insurance, and to help cover that, he ended up suing everybody who was even remotely involved in that fight. So he
Mm,
ended up suing the venue and the organizers, and he even sued our partner, the referee, saying like, hey, he should have called the match when he should have tapped, but he was like, hey, he should have called the match, and like, so this was partially his fault, and that was all just to like help cover hopefully some of his medical costs. And so it's just one of those things where it's better to have it and not need it than to not have it and need it.
100%. So great questions. Great points. We have 3 whole minutes left. Does anybody have any last words? I hope this was helpful. I hope that it wasn't too confusing, especially when I got into how everything connects. But again, I think a lot of um, businesses when they do accept like, okay, I want this event to happen and it's going to be worth it and let's jump in, maybe they jump in and don't realize the extent of it, and in the end that event could feel like it wasn't worth it because they didn't have the turnout they wanted. They didn't get the correct audience to attend. They didn't get the leads out of it that they wanted in the end. And all of that, those results stem from poor planning. It stems from not marketing to the right people. It stems from not having the correct experience at the event itself. So yeah, hopefully, if you or someone, oh, thank you. They say that it's super insightful and helpful. Thank you. Um, yeah, so glad to have shared all of this with you. Again, if you have any questions, you can always contact me at Poetica or Pat or Nicole. And yeah, thank you. And also thank you all for joining us for the last series, this summer series. It's now complete. What are we going to do with ourselves?
But
But
yeah, thank you, Regina, for being the caboose on this
the
series.
caboose, yes, of course. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll talk soon.